Ohio may look like a place of rolling farmland, quiet suburbs, and bustling cities, but beneath its surface lies something far darker. The state is home to cursed cemeteries, decaying asylums, haunted bridges, and mansions where shadows outnumber the living. Here, history is written not only in stone and steel, but in whispers that never fade. Tonight, we'll walk the abandoned halls, step through mist-shrouded graveyards, and listen for the voices that refuse to rest. These are 10 of the most haunted places in Ohio, and if you're brave enough, stay until the end. 1 Sedamsville Rectory, Cincinnati, Ohio. On the west side of Cincinnati stands a building that chills even the bravest investigators, the Sedamsville Rectory. Built in the late 1800s, this former Catholic rectory once housed priests who ministered to the nearby community. But its walls conceal stories of darkness and suffering that still seep into the present. The rectory became notorious after accusations of abuse surfaced, with whispers of cruelty and neglect toward children. Over the decades, the structure fell into decay, its stained glass windows shattered, its halls filled with dust and silence. But silence here doesn't mean peace. Paranormal teams who've entered the rectory describe overwhelming waves of oppression, as if the very air presses down on you. Growls have been recorded in empty rooms, shadows crawl across the ceilings, and doors slam violently as though unseen hands are furious you dared enter. One investigator claimed he was scratched down his back by something he couldn't see. Another swore he saw a figure in a priest's cassock vanish through a locked door. In the basement, people report the sound of children crying sharp, piercing sobs that stop abruptly, leaving only a suffocating silence. Some believe the rectory is haunted by victims. Others think something darker has taken root here, something that feeds on fear. Standing outside, the building looks like any other aging home, but cross the threshold, and you might discover why so many refuse to ever step inside again. The Sedamsville Rectory isn't just haunted, it's a place where faith collides with something unspeakably sinister. 2 Ohio University, Athens, Ohio. College campuses are supposed to be alive with energy, but in Athens, Ohio University carries a darker kind of energy altogether. Known as one of the most haunted campuses in America, nearly every corner has a story to tell. At Wilson Hall, room 428 has been sealed off permanently after reports of violent hauntings. Students claimed objects moved on their own, voices spoke in strange tongues, and demonic faces appeared in the walls. One legend ties it to a student who practiced dark rituals before dying under mysterious circumstances. Nearby, Jefferson Hall is said to echo with phantom footsteps, while the Brown House rattles with disembodied voices. Even the campus catacombs, once used to transport the dead, are rumored to be filled with shadows that move without light. Perhaps the most disturbing connection is how the university sits at the heart of a so-called pentagon of cemeteries. 5 graveyards, perfectly aligned, surround the campus. Locals insist it creates a supernatural hotbed, an invisible boundary where restless energy thrives. Students still speak of seeing apparitions wandering the quad, or waking in the night to find their dorm room colder than ice, with a figure standing in the corner. Would you study here, knowing the dead may attend class alongside the living? At Ohio University, graduation isn't the only ceremony whispered about. Some say the campus itself is a ritual ground and the students are never alone. 3. Mansfield Cemetery, Mansfield, Ohio. Some cemeteries hold only memories. Mansfield Cemetery, however, holds something darker. Dating back to the early 1800s, this graveyard is said to be haunted by restless spirits who have made their presence known to countless visitors. Locals speak of a woman in a white gown, drifting through the headstones late at night. Some say she is searching for her lost child, her wails echoing across the silent grounds. Others claim she's an omen if you see her. Misfortune will follow. One of the eeriest legends is tied to a particular mausoleum. Those who approach say they hear pounding from inside, as though someone or something still struggles to escape. Sometimes, voices rise up from beneath the earth, faint but unmistakable, whispering words no one can understand. Even paranormal investigators have left shaken. Equipment malfunctions, batteries drain in seconds, and recordings pick up cries and laughter that no human present heard in the moment. The most unsettling part: some visitors report leaving the cemetery only to find something followed them home. Strange knocks in the night, cold touches on their skin, dreams of the dead, standing at the foot of their beds. The air in Mansfield Cemetery is always colder than the town around it, and the silence is never empty. Would you dare walk among its graves at midnight, knowing you might not leave alone? 4. The Buckton Inn, Greenwood, Ohio. If you wander into the small, historic town of Greenville, you'll find an inn that looks charming on the outside: white clapboard walls, glowing windows, and a colonial-era feel. But once you step inside the Buckton Inn, you're stepping into one of Ohio's most haunted places. Built in 1812, the Buckton Inn has stood through wars, presidents, and centuries of weary travelers. Some never left. Guests and staff report flickering lamps, sudden cold drafts, and footsteps pacing the hallways when no one else is around. One of the inn's most famous spirits is the Lady in Blue, believed to be Ethel Bonnie Bownell, a former innkeeper who died in room 9. She's often seen gliding through the corridors in a flowing blue dress, her perfume lingering in the air. Guests who stay in her room have described waking to find her figure standing at the foot of their bed, silently watching. Another ghost tied to the Buckton is Major Buckton himself, one of the original owners. He's often spotted as a shadowy man in old-fashioned clothing, quietly observing guests before fading into the walls. There are also tales of a phantom cat, yes, a ghostly feline seen darting across the inn's staircases, brushing against the legs of unsuspecting visitors. The inn is still open today, welcoming guests with warm meals and comfortable rooms. But would you stay overnight, knowing you might wake to see a silent figure in blue standing just a breath away? 5. Greenwood Cemetery, Hamilton, Ohio. Cemeteries are supposed to be places of peace, but in Hamilton, Ohio, Greenwood Cemetery has a reputation for being anything but. Established in 1848, this sprawling graveyard is filled with towering monuments, ancient trees, and legends that refuse to rest. The most famous tale is of the Weeping Woman, a statue of a grieving figure said to come alive at night. Witnesses swear they've seen her stone eyes glisten with tears, or her head slowly turning to follow them as they walk past. Some even claim the statue has been found in different position, as though she moves when no one is watching. Visitors also report ghostly children darting between gravestones, their laughter echoing faintly before dissolving into silence. Others hear footsteps trailing them along gravel paths, only to find the cemetery empty. And on foggy nights, a mysterious blue light drifts through the tombs, vanishing whenever someone approaches. The atmosphere here is suffocating, even in daylight. Greenwood feels different, like the air is thick, heavy with stories you're not meant to know. At night, the silence deepens until even your own heartbeat sounds too loud. Would you linger here, beneath the gaze of a statue said to move when the living aren't looking? Or would you leave quickly, before you discover what else watches in the dark? 6 Helltown, Summit County, Ohio. They say maps used to mark this place with a single chilling word: haunted. Deep in the Cuyahoga Valley lies a stretch of abandoned houses, barricaded roads, and strange graffiti that locals simply call Helltown. The legends here are endless. Some say the government evacuated the town in the 1970s because of a chemical spill. Others whisper of satanic cults performing rituals in the woods. There are stories of mutant creatures, ghostly hitchhikers, and buses that never move, frozen in time with their headlights burning. The most infamous legend is the end of the world road. Drive down it, and you'll find the pavement suddenly cut off by a sheer drop into nothing. Some who've dared to stop there claim they saw shadowy figures standing at the edge, staring back. Visitors report hearing chanting in the trees, seeing strange red eyes blinking in the darkness, and feeling chased by unseen forces along the abandoned streets. The silence here isn't empty, it's heavy. Like the land itself doesn't want you there. Skeptics say it's just an abandoned town swallowed by rumor. But if you stand in the middle of Helltown at night, surrounded by decaying homes and forests that seem to whisper, you might find yourself believing otherwise. Would you keep walking down those roads, past the no trespassing signs, knowing the locals refuse to go after dark? 7. Athens Lunatic Asylum, Athens, Ohio. They called it the Ridges. On the outside, the sprawling red brick building seemed almost beautiful, set against the rolling hills of Athens. But step inside, and you'd enter a world where screams once echoed through locked wards. Opened in 1874, the Athens Lunatic Asylum became notorious for overcrowding, experimental treatments, and patients who never walked out alive. Here, lobotomies were performed with cold efficiency. Hydrotherapy drenched patients in scalding or icy water, and electroshock rattled through human skulls. Thousands died inside these walls, their bodies buried in unmarked graves across the asylum grounds. One story chills visitors the most: the stain. In 1978, a patient vanished from her ward. Weeks later, her body was discovered in an abandoned wing, decomposed and pressed against the floor. To this day, her outline remains burned into the concrete, as if the asylum itself refuses to forget. Paranormal investigators say the asylum is alive with energy. Voices whisper down hallways, doors slam on their own, and apparitions glide past the shattered windows. Some witnesses describe being overcome with sudden panic, as though someone or something is still watching them from the padded cells. Walk these halls long enough, and you'll feel it too: the weight of despair, the echo of suffering, and perhaps the faint sound of a woman crying, trapped forever in the place that forgot her. The Ridges is no longer a functioning hospital. It now houses Ohio University offices and museums. But the ghosts remain. They always do. 8. Franklin Castle, Cleveland, Ohio. On the quiet streets of Cleveland's Ohio City neighborhood stands a mansion that seems carved out of gloom itself. With its turrets, wrought iron balconies, and dark stone, Franklin Castle looks like it was born haunted, and according to over a century of rumors, it is. Built in 1881 by German immigrant Hannes Tiedemann, the home quickly became the stuff of whispered horror. Within just a few years, several of Tiedemann's children died in the house, one after another. His wife passed away inside as well. Locals began to suspect the family was cursed or that Hannes himself had a darker hand in the deaths. The mansion contains hidden rooms, secret passages and false doors that lead nowhere. People who explore the castle report voices murmuring behind walls, footsteps on staircases that are empty, and the distinct sound of children crying in the dead of night. Some see a woman in black at the windows, staring down at the street before vanishing into the dark. There's one particularly chilling tale of a secret chamber where bones were allegedly found, though skeptics dispute it. But believers insist the walls hide more than just plaster. They hide secrets. Those who stay inside the castle for long say the atmosphere changes. The temperature drops without warning. Shadows ripple across the ceilings. And sometimes, the sound of an organ fills the rooms even though no instrument has ever been found. Franklin Castle remains one of the most haunted houses in Ohio, a place where history and legend bleed together. Would you step inside, knowing the walls themselves might be listening? Find Moonville Tunnel, MacArthur, Ohio. Hidden deep in the woods of southern Ohio, there's a tunnel carved into stone where the only sound is the dripping of unseen water and the occasional rumble of trains that no longer run. This is Moonville Tunnel, all that remains of a 19th century mining town long swallowed by the forest. The village is gone, but the ghosts never left. The tunnel has a bloody history. Built in 1856 for the Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad, it quickly became notorious for fatal accidents. Workers were struck by passing trains, miners were crushed, and travelers walking through the dark passage met gruesome ends. One legend tells of a brakeman, drunk on duty, who was hit by a train. His ghost, swinging a lantern, still appears to hikers at night. Locals whisper about the engineer's ghost, whose glowing light floats down the track before vanishing into thin air. Others describe hearing phantom footsteps, the sound of gravel crunching behind them in perfect rhythm with their own, until they turn around to find nothing. Some even claim to hear a woman scream reverberating through the stone walls, a sound so sharp it freezes you in place. The forest presses close here. Even in daylight, shadows linger. And at night, the tunnel becomes a mouth that swallows you whole. Would you keep walking? Or would you turn back the moment you saw a faint lantern swinging in the dark? Moonville Tunnel isn't just a ruin, it's a reminder that some places, once touched by tragedy, will always belong to the dead. 10. The Ohio State Reformatory, Mansfield, Ohio. The first thing you notice is the sheer size. Looming turrets, Gothic spires, and walls that seem to close in with every step. The Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield looks less like a prison and more like a fortress built for nightmares. Opened in 1896, it was meant to reform young men. Instead, it became infamous for cruelty, overcrowding, and countless deaths inside its walls. Step inside, and you'll find the world's longest prison cell block. stretching tier after tier like an iron cathedral. Here, the clang of doors once echoed with despair. Today, visitors say the echoes haven't stopped. They hear footsteps pacing behind them, voices crying out from empty cells, and the metallic slam of doors locking themselves. Some even claim to feel hands brushing against their skin, as if unseen inmates still stalk the tiers. There's the story of a guard who was beaten to death, his spirit said to linger near the control room, watching with hollow eyes. And deep within solitary confinement, people report being overwhelmed with dread so strong they can't breathe. The air tastes of rust, and shadows move where light should fall still. Would you dare walk through the hole at midnight, where men once lost their sanity in total darkness? Many who do walk out shaking, convinced that something down there whispered their name. The Reformatory may be best known as the filming location of the Shawshank Redemption. But behind the Hollywood sheen, its real stories are far darker. They say the prisoners never left, only their bodies did. Ohio is a state built on history, industry, and community, but hidden in its shadows are places that time will never heal. From asylums where the dead still whisper, to tunnels where lanterns swing without hands, to cemeteries where statues weep. These stories remind us that the past is never truly gone. So if you ever find yourself in Ohio, take a second look at the old buildings, the abandoned roads, and the graveyards you pass. Because here, the line between the living and the dead is thinner than you think. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this chilling journey, don't forget to like, comment with your favorite haunted location, and subscribe for more weekly videos from the shadows.